Okay, so this time we're looking at a PlayStation 4. Now, this is the original model. I've recently picked this up and it is working, except for it has one major issue, which is it sounds like a jumbo jet after about 10 minutes of playing. Now, if you look at the back of it, I haven't removed any of them stickers that are normally on there. Them stickers were already removed. So it means somebody's already been here in here anyway, and I've also opened this up quickly and just cleared out a little bit of dust, thinking that might be the issue. Now, I have a feeling that it might just be down to the thermal paste, and where someone's taken this apart, they've not put new thermal paste, and that may be what's causing the issue. So, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about here, I've put the microphone up close to the PS4 and you can hear the tone change. So, after a minute, it doesn't sound too bad, fairly normal. 3 minutes, you can see the tone's getting a little bit higher. And now after 14 minutes, it's really loud, and that's just not correct. It's not crashing, but it will do eventually. So the first thing we need to do is we are going to require not only just a star head screw, but a security star head screw. Now, I've seen people use little terminal screwdrivers and you can kind of wedge it between two sides and you can undo it that way. Chances are you're going to break this pin off, and I've also seen that as well where people just break these pins off as well just so then they can use a regular star screw. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your console, do what you want to do with it. For me personally, I mean, for the sake of $5-6, you can buy a set like this, for example, and it has all the different security bits in it. It's got tri-wings, it's got security Allen key heads, it's got security star. So personally, this is what I would go with rather than going breaking things off. And now I just picked the right one out here. Yep, that's the right one. I think it says on this H8, but it's a T8 talk head security bit. It's probably got the H for the security part of it. So again, we just want to undo these screws. Now, if you've never been into your console before, there will be a sticky label over here, sticky label over here, black label, and I believe either one's got a black and a security, or these are both security labels. Again, I'm assuming because of the age of your PS4, chances are it's out of warranty now anyway. So we can just undo this. And again, it's probably something you're going to want to be able to do anyway at some point on these particular consoles, because they do like to hoover the dust up. So if I undo that one. So now we're at stage one here. So you can see, if I bring this up a little bit closer, you can see there's a bit of dust in there. I have given it a little bit of a clean out, but again, not enough of a clean out at the moment. Right, so next thing we want to do is use just a normal crosshead screwdriver, and we just want to undo these really long screws here. So again, both of these screws appear to be the same length. I don't really think it matters which way round they go. Next thing we want to do is remove this top cover here. So again, we've got 3 screws here. So 1 screw here, 1 screw here, 1 screw here. Now the way this works is just here, there's a couple of pins that basically connect the power supply to the main board. When you're trying to remove this, it can be a little bit stiff just because of the way it sits in. So you kind of got to just work it out a little bit. So you can see there, this side is lifting quite nicely, but this side here is still quite tight. and you just kind of got to wiggle it backwards and forwards a little bit, and it will just go. Also, another thing to bear in mind, we've got this little cable here. So depending on what you want to do, you can just take this out, flip it over, but I actually prefer to just remove this, because then I can just take the whole power supply out of the way. Saves a lot of messing around, because potentially you could pull that cable and damage it. So again, like I say, it takes a little bit of a struggle, but there we go, it's finally come out. And you can see there, that's the 2 pins where it locates onto the main board. And if we look here, you can see the 2 pins there. That's what the board plugs into. So now we've got this open, first thing I want to do is use this air duster just to give it a little blowout, just to make sure I've got all the dust out, or as much dust as I can. Okay, that seems to have got rid of pretty much most of the dust. Not that there was much in there anyway. As I say, I've already had this open previously and just give it a little clean out. The main reason I've opened this today is to actually replace this thermal compound with this MX4, this Arctic MX4 compound, and hopefully that should stop that fan from revving up as much as it has been. Okay, so to get this removed, we just need to push it sideways like this. And again, now if I was changing the hard drive, or I wanted to increase the hard drive size, so you can see this particular screw here has the PlayStation symbols around it. So this one undoes. Pull your hard drive out, and then if you have another hard drive, just undo the 4 screws here, and then you can put a bigger hard drive in there. And where I want to get to is under this section here. So this is the section where the heatsink is. And also, just in general, we just want to open this up anyway, just to clear out any more dust or debris we can find in here. Just try and make it as clean as possible, really. Now, as this is the first time I'm opening up a PS4, I had a look at a few tutorials, and they were saying to lift this tab up, but I found on this particular one I need to push it down to release this cable. Okay, so just for this Blu-ray cable, you don't need to pull it up, you need to push it down, and then that will... So you see what my finger's doing there? You just need to push it down and then you can pull it out. So I don't know whether there's variations or not, but for this one I had to push it down. So the next thing I want to do here is remove the Wi-Fi antenna. Now this is just, again, one little star screw holding this down. So I'm just going to undo that. And I just want to get it out of the way because that's lying right across the top of the Blu-ray player. So we need to move that cable really just out of the way for now, just so we can remove that Blu-ray player. Okay, so the next part we need to do is remove these 3 screws. So there's one here, one here, one here, and then that should let us remove this plate. That comes off of there. Now after that, the next thing we want to do is remove the power cable for the Blu-ray player, and that's just plugged into the board there. And again, it's just a case of gripping it and just giving it a little wiggle to pull it out, and then that should come out of the way. Okay, so now we want to actually remove the Blu-ray drive itself. So my first screw is going to be over here. I'll just get it in shot. Now at this point in the video you might be wondering why I'm not using a screwdriver for that bit, and there is no good reason for it. I could easily just put it in a screwdriver and use it, but for some reason I just decided to test my strength and just use my bare fingers on the bit itself to undo everything. So one of the screws holding down this Blu-ray drive is a little bit hidden, and it's just under this cable here. So if I just move that out of the way a little bit, you should be able to see it a little bit better there. There it is. And again, if you didn't know that was there, you'd be trying to remove the Blu-ray drive and you'd be wondering why it wasn't coming up, and it's because this little screw here is still in place. Right, so my next thing I want to try and do is lift this one out. Oh, come on. Ah, lucky. So there is 3 of these star screws in total holding the Blu-ray drive down, and this is the last of those type of screws. There is one little crosshead that we'll deal with in a second. Okay, so this last one's just a little crosshead. So if we undo that, we'll put it with our other screws here. Right. Ah, there we are. Lovely. So now the drive's out of the way, the next thing we're going to do is just remove this Wi-Fi antenna just to keep it out of the way and stop it from getting damaged, really. So that just pushes into the motherboard itself, and again, quite easy, little wiggle will get that off. There we go. Okay, so our next part then is to remove these screws here. So let me see. We have this screw here, this screw here, okay, put it from the front here. So once we've lifted it from the front here, we just push it back a little bit. So this is my first time opening up a PlayStation 4. It looks like to me that bit of plastic there's melted, but where it's actually touching, I can't see what would have melted it, so maybe it is supposed to be like that. So the next thing I want to do is disconnect this cable here. And it's weird because it looks like it wants to pull forward, but it actually comes upwards. So you just got to use like a little terminal screwdriver or something just to get under it and just try and lever it up, and obviously try not to damage the pins on the circuit board themselves. But that come up fairly smooth, and that should be good. Now we just want to remove all these screws here. So all the screws on this silver plate and this as well. So this bracket here is just held down with 2 crosshead screws, and it's just to put pressure on the CPU chip where it connects to the heatsink itself. Now what I'm doing here, I'm giving each one of these screws 1 revolution each side. I'm doing them, so I'm doing left side, right side, and I'm counting how many there are in total, just so when I put it back again I can give it the same amount of tension again. Okay, so for that we're looking at about 14 or 15 revolutions to get that plate off, and that would give it the same amount of tension when we go to put it back on again. And again, the aim of that plate is just literally to put pressure where the processor is, just so it's making a good contact. That's all these screws removed. Now let's see if we can take this off. Oh, I seem to have a screw through here. So when I went to remove this plate, I noticed it was still being held by one side. So when I flipped it over, I found this other little crosshead screw here that was just holding everything together. So I just quickly removed that. Put him in there for the minute. Right. Okay. So now we've got all these little thermal contacts for all these other chips here. It should now just lift out, is the plan. Oh yeah. There we go. Finally. We've got to what we need to get to, which is this thermal paste. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not the best. If you're replacing the thermal paste on your CPU, at this point it might also be worth you changing that CR2032 battery. So now we just want to remove all the thermal paste that's here. So from the chip and also from the heatsink. And to do that, I'm going to be using some isopropyl alcohol, some little cotton buds, because again, just to try and get around these corners, and we'll see how we go.
It was quiet when I bought you, silent like the night. But now when I hit power on, you're ready for a flight. Dust clouds in your cooling fan, pace is cracked and dry. You spin up like a hurricane, I think you're gonna fly. Station for your screaming second, sounds like Heathrow and I thank my friends. You lift off in the middle of the fight, man, I is won't make it through the night. Playing God of War at midnight, but the neighbors think there's planes. You're arming through the cutscenes like a Boeing in the rain. I could open up your casing, give you some TLC, new pace and a dust clean, so you don't take off on me. Jet station for your screaming again, sounds like Heathrow and I thank my friends.
Now this raised bit is the part that's actually touching the surface here, so if this is a little bit dirty either side, that doesn't matter. This is the part you want really clean, and the same here, we want the top of this really clean. And you can see it's almost coming up like a mirror like finish on there.
Fix you up, I'll treat you right, till you hurt like you did that first night. Jet station 4, calm down my friend, you don't need to hit Mach 10. Stay grounded, stay cool, let's end this flight when we're gaining peace. No more runway, no more sky, just load the game and don't fly.
So the next thing I want to do is apply some thermal paste to here. Don't need to apply it to here. And again, many different schools of thought when it comes to applying thermal paste. Some people just put a dollop in the middle, let it spread out naturally. My understanding of it, or what I was taught, was to put it on a little amount and then kind of just spread it out evenly. Because again, when it comes to thermal paste, too much can basically almost act as an insulator, and it doesn't allow the heat to transfer properly. Likewise, too little. Really, the whole point of the thermal paste is just to allow the heat to transfer from the chip to the heatsink and cool the processor down. And if that thermal transfer isn't happening properly, that is what would be causing an issue. And again, with this particular surface, even though it looks perfectly flat and perfectly straight, there are little minor micro kind of like crevices. If you put it under a microscope, you'll see. And again, there used to be an old thing back in the day, what people would do to get extra speed out of their CPUs, they would do this thing called lapping, where they would take the heatsink out and then they would use some really fine sandpaper and just kind of try and file it down even more, like just to make sure that surface was as smooth as possible. And I don't think we need to do it with this. I mean, for me, I'm happy with that surface the way it is. We're not overclocking it, we're not doing anything too special with it. We are literally just going to use it as a PlayStation 4. So let's get our thermal paste here. Okay. Give it a little squeeze. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a glove and then just start spreading it out. Now the trouble with using the glove is it don't really go all the way over, but let's just start spreading it so it covers. So there we go, that's the whole chip covered now. And once that butts up against the heatsink, that should allow a good transfer of heat. Before I put this all back together again though, I do have some of these all-purpose wipes. I'm just going to give some of these covers a little wipe down as well, just get rid of some of the dust off of them. So like this one here, for example, you can see pretty dusty. So yeah, that's looking a lot better. Wow, I mean, look at that, that's just between one fin. Yeah, that's pretty gruesome. Let's have a look. I mean, that fan looks a lot better than it did anyway, that's for sure. Okay, so I think we're happy with this now to all go back together again. So first thing we want to do is remember which way around this has to go, like this. Oops. We're putting this back together again. Just remember this cable here, it's basically got to go through this hole here. This one goes through here. Okay. And what I'm trying to do here, you see on the back here, so what I'm trying to do is line all this up, so now I know I'm in the right position. So now I can just push down with this thermal paste. And I'm making good contact. So the next thing we want to do is put this on first. So this basically protects the processor. These are just again to transfer some heat from these chips onto this back plate. And so if we put this in place, right. And then we can see on this back plate here, if I just zoom in a little bit, so you can see everywhere a screw has to go, there's like a little arrow pointing to it. So again, as long as there's an arrow there, that's where you need to put your screws in. So the next thing we want to do is put this in, and if you can remember, this was approximately 14 turns, so if we do the same again, that should give us the same tension that was on that CPU. And what I'm doing as well, as I'm tightening these down, the reason why I'm going each side rather than doing up one side and then doing up the other side, is just so it's keeping the tension even across the middle here. As you can see, it's still loose at the moment, so still got a little ways to go. So now it's keeping a good tension between the chip and the thermal paste, and then obviously the heat sink. So hopefully that's all good. So let's get this back together. And just make sure it's seating properly. Just need to bring our cables round where they were going before. So the mistake I've made here, and I'll correct it later on in the video, but just to save you a bit of time, so put the screw down for the Blu-ray player before you start routing this cable around, because I've just had to take it all off again and put that screw back in. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is put that little screw in before I forget it. So you see where it is, just there. Okay, that screws back in. So I just had to quickly look at the video where I was dismantling it just to see which way round this went, because it just felt weird that these bits would be facing upwards, but obviously it is just to prevent it getting damaged, the top of the cable. So we'll get this one in first, and again, what we want to do is push down on this rather than push up, and that cable should just slide in like so. We'll just give it a little tug test, and again here, so we'll push down on here, which then should release it, and we can get our cable in, let it go, give it a little tug test. So that cable's back in. So our next part is going to be just putting all these screws back in here, I believe. Fun putting these things in. Right, let's pull that one out, and we can route this cable around where it needs to go. So if I pull this off, so this cable is, move that out of the way, going under here, okay, and then it's going around this little clip here, and then it's coming up, going over here, and then it just ends up here, just on this little tab there. So now that's back in where it should be. We can put our Blu-ray power cable, it looks like, and we'll put that one back in. So just want to put this screw back in here. Okay, so I had to dismantle this a little bit just because I realised I've missed out the screw that goes in here. So if I zoom in a little bit, so you can see it a bit clearer. So yeah, there's a screw should go in here. Okay, that's got that one. One over here. And then our final one. This one over here. side. Right, so let's get this in first. So this, right, this cable for the power for the Blu-ray plugs into here, like so. Then this cable goes under this clip and on top of this clip. I believe that's it. And then push down on this tab. Okay, next we want to put this plate on, which goes around like so. And again, we got the locating pins there. And this one's just a normal crosshead screwdriver. Okay, so next thing we want to do is reinsert our power supply. Like so. And again, this cable just connects into the side. Like so. Which was one screw here. One screw over here. Just going to put our longer screws back in here. And remember, these are just crosshead screws. Just going to bend these up a little bit just to make sure they make a good connection with the shielding. So to put this one back on again, we need to hook it around the front, and then it sits on the back like so. And if we turn it over, next thing we want to do is reinsert our hard drive. Okay, so that's our hard drive inserted. We want to, again, remember to just hook over this part. So now we can screw this down. Okay, we slide our side cover on. not least, just put our screws back in here. Okay, that is the last screw. Now we are ready to power up again and see if this works. So we can hear straight away this has now been running for 44 minutes and this is as loud as it's getting right now. So compare it to the previous ones and then back to how it is now, and we're at 45 minutes. And this is what it sounded like at 14 minutes before. So everything sounded a lot better. With that, I will see you on the next one.
I'll fix you up, I'll treat you right, till you've hurt like you did that first night. Gestation 4, calm down my friend. You don't need to hit Mach 10. Stay grounded, stay cool, let's end this fight. One more game in peace, sing.